We're going to pick it up a little bit. Rand Paul has made the comment that nobody has a right to come to America. It's a privilege to come to America, and of course we have to be able to screen people. The notion that we're just opening the door to everybody is absurd. Okay, Gary, let's go to the next one. Thank you. And Bobby Jindal has made the comment that this is really an invasion. You've got people who want to come to America and fundamentally change the culture of America. So we're looking at an invasion, and that's the way we should be dealing with it, Gary. So we do have, finally, something to work on. Representative Babin from the state of Texas has introduced a bill, 3314, I believe it is, to suspend the admission into the United States of refugees in order to examine the cost of providing benefits to such individuals and for other purposes. So it's a temporary suspension until we figure out what are we doing, what are the implications, what are the costs. This is very significant. We have up here, we'll probably, we'll put them on the table or we'll hand them out. We believe we've got your representative's address and name on the form. If you want to, you can read the letters and you could send them yourself. If you have time tonight and you want to sign them, we'll mail them for you.
Well, they're specific. Not me to pass them out. No, yeah, because they're specific to each one. So
if you have to say whether your representative is person A or person B. Is that what you mean, Gary?
Yeah.
We've got two that we think are appropriate.
Lawrence and Dingle.
Lawrence and Dingle. We're not sure those are the right ones. We have Lawrence, a pile of Dingle, and if you take the right one, you can simply read it and send it in. It specifically says, please support the Babin bill to temporary halt this flooding of Michigan. If you want to think just about Michigan, remember, we're number one. We're getting flooded. We just want to stop temporarily to understand it. Very important. The next slide is brand new. We just put it on today. Yesterday we met a lady who's a pocket of resistance, and she told us that the South Carolina activists, people like you, have actually made a difference. Legislatures in South Carolina and their governor have approved a new law. The new law is an addendum to their budget. It says there will be no state funds expended to assist in the United States Refugee Resettlement Program unless the county council of the county where the resettlement is to occur approves the relocation. So what county are we in? This is Washtenaw. So despite what the UN says, the State Department says, the Catholic bishops say, or the Lutherans say, if somebody wants to put a refugee into Washtenaw County, that person will receive no state benefits unless the Washtenaw County Council approves the movement of that batch of refugees. It's very significant. It's kind of simple, but it's kind of profound. We spoke to the woman on the phone yesterday who was the activist that got their representative. That's why I was asking some of you who your representatives are. This would be basically focused on Lansing changing the law. I understand the implications of the Republican leadership and the governor. Remember, the governor went to the ISNA conference. I got it. However, this is a significant groundswell that we can activate through people like you to put this forward and make people take a position about whether or not in an upcoming election year they would support giving local control to stop the spending of state money to a program which is otherwise dictated by the leftists and the Islamists in the United Nations and the State Department.
Yeah, and just, Dick and I are not at liberty to say, but Dick and I just spoke to a state rep today here in Michigan, and we forwarded him this information, and he's somewhat on board of refugee resettlement. He does know about it, and refugees are being seeded into his district. So he's aware of it, he's interested in this, and he's got some good connection, good buddies in the state. So we're going to pursue this, and then when we get, we can mention his name, we will. But as of right now, we just want to let him digest all the information that Dick and I fed him concerning refugee resettlement. So that's good news.
Pardon me?
Well, you
Yeah, why don't we go
Yeah.
through the presentation? I just want to say, it's not in the same order of magnitude as what the general said. The general
Yeah.
said Iran has a nuclear weapon. That's not the level we're at. But we have said, you're the first people to hear this,
Yes.
that there is an approach. It's in the law in the state of South Carolina, and we're going to basically, over the next week or so, we're going to build a petition where you can go online and you can support a petition and send a letter to your state rep saying, I want you to look at this, I want you to give control to the county council before any money is spent to move people into Ypsilanti.
So you're going to give us a link for that?
We're going to send the link to Dennis. We haven't built the petition, we just learned about it yesterday. But we'll use some petition site, and it'll identify the background. It'll link to information, and people can make a decision. So this is 100% grassroots. Again, your representative today knows nothing about it, will not be interested in it. However, if we can present hundreds, thousands of people who say, oh my God, why don't you give the county council a shot instead of having it come from the UN and the State Department?
County council, why would the county council be the ones to okay state funds?
Because they changed the law. In other words, the law.
They did, but can we do it differently?
Well, the point is, good news. First of all, how does it happen mechanically is a great question. And then who are the forces that would support or object to it? So one of the things we're looking to do is to put the gentleman Gary and I spoke to today and any other state representative who's interested on the phone or on a Skype session with the representative in South Carolina who proposed it. Let these legislators talk about how to do it, what would work, what wouldn't work. So the answer is it's a brand new idea, but it is the law in South Carolina.
Right, well, I worry about Washington County because Ann Arbor rules everything in this county, so they're going to okay it. So, you know, okay.
But they will have to have a city council meeting about it, which.
Yeah, part of this is the energy
But the council
behind.
members would be the final vote on it.
Well, but even before we get there, though, part of this is the energy
the
of something to talk to your neighbor about.
Right.
Joe's running for election. Is Joe going to support this? If Joe doesn't support this, then what's he in favor of? We are giving away the country. We're giving away the state of Michigan. We're looking for anything that can raise the level of understanding, whether it fails. If it fails, that's news. If the 9 Republicans in the state of Michigan do not support the Babin bill to stop the refugee resettlement program, that's news. And believe me, the Chamber of Commerce supports all 9 of those people, and I'll bet you many of the Republicans will not support it, but that's news. Okay, here. All right, we're going to hand out this information. So this is 10 things you need to know. We've covered most of it. What you're getting, we'll talk about the handout in a second, but this is basically the 10 things you should know. We started United Nations and so on and so forth. We're going to go through this slide and move on here, okay? Yep. The point here is, after 3 months, 6 months, the federal contractor pulls away and you, state taxpayer, are paying for it. When you find out, by the way, just a footnote, we didn't cover this, these people are, because they have an R for refugee, they are not screened for communicable diseases like tuberculosis. Incredible. Let's move on. So if you find out that something's happening in your town, you have to shed light on it. You should be asking questions about who's coming, where they're coming from, what happens if we have an economic turndown and you're still going to bring people into it. Once they start to bring them into your town, they go through the energy of connecting to your school, to your welfare, to your hospital, and now they've got a funnel and they try to bring the family members for those people. So once you got started in your town, we presented the list earlier, chances are more and more people will come. One of the notes is what's happening for the 2016 plan. We know there's a plan. Nobody's seen it in the state of Michigan. The bishops and the Lutheran folks have prepared their plans. It's gone to the coordinator for refugees in Lansing. His name is Al Horn. He will not share it with anybody. We have to demand that. And by getting this petition going, we're shedding light on all the secrecy, that things we don't know. Here. Of course, your question can go on about healthcare, education, and housing. Where will they work? All right, let's stop here for a second. So, if you want to be a pocket, that's just me and Gary and anybody else who wants to be a pocket. One of the you're a redneck or you're a pocket of resistance if you do things like take action on a moratorium, signing the letter to get the Babin bill. That's one thing. We will try to get a petition on the Babin bill. We'll get that to Dennis also. So that's an action you can take. You can do what we just discussed to get your representative to learn about how to hold back state funds unless the county council or some other local group has identified, yes, this is a refugee resettlement project. We want to support. It's an election year coming up. Think about that. Don't let people call you names or bully you as a racist or an Islamophobe. We're Americans.
That's right.
We're old Americans. And we want to stay to be old Americans. We want to be free, and we don't want to provide a service for feeding the world in our neighborhoods. Right. It's out of control and it's devious. All this humanitarian stuff is overdone, overblown. It's a plan to change America. The people behind this at the United Nations, the Organization of Economic Cooperation, hate America.
Well, the secrecy of it is what's really bad.
Thank you. The secrecy tells you the story. That's exactly the point. If all you do is talk to your Democratic neighbor about the secrecy, that's progress. Okay, Gary?
Yep.
Yep. And we're getting close. All right, so Act for America is part of the program. Working on this. Act for America is one way you can proceed. You can go to Act for America website, and the bill is 3314. That's the Babin bill, and you can at their website join their initiative to stop refugee resettlement. Okay, Gary? Just got a couple more. The Center for Security Policy is really where that video, both those videos came from that organization. They are organizing the pockets of resistance. If there's something you want to do, on your handout, on the back of your handout, is the information on this slide. So you can register your interest with the Security Policy, Center for Security Policy. All that means is that we'll get to know each other. That's all. We'll get to know who we. It's really interesting, in addition to the Act for America site, we actually have 3 people in Michigan who just learned about this 2 months ago, and they started writing about it. One of them is Welcoming America Midwest. It's on your paper. If you go there, you're going to find a blog. If you go to reports, you'll see a lot of the statistics that we've shown you and other statistics. So, for example, on that website, Welcoming America Watch Midwest, which is on your paper, you can see the country of all the people that are coming through Ann Arbor or Dearborn. You will see, for example, in Lansing, coming into Lansing in 9 months, 17 different countries are having their people moved into Lansing. Why? It's incredible when you look at the names of the countries. Again, this is after the fact. This is not ahead of time. Nobody knew they were coming, but our friend who runs that blog has done that. Gary, let's go on. Okay, I want to stop for a second. General Vowley and Trevor Loudon have created what is an organization that produces the American Report. The AmericanReport.org will tell you in detail why this is happening. You will find on that website direct information about the infiltration of the American government by the Muslim Brotherhood. There are movies you can watch on the right-hand side. The Betrayal Papers are 6-part series in movie form. 3 of them are in movie form. The movies were made here in Michigan. Gary Kubiak made the movie from the text and the audio. You could sit there for 12 minutes and watch and learn. The title, the first one is Under Obama, the U.S. is Captured by the Muslim Brotherhood. That's why these things are happening. The other point is that there are articles on there about CARE and ISNA. We refer to them as terrorists in business suits, and the detail, it's very, very detailed. And I finally want to point out the Benghazi brief, because I know you've been talking about Benghazi. If you go to that website, you can click on the report called the Benghazi brief. You will see a PowerPoint with audio. It's incredible what nobody else is talking about, what happened in Benghazi. And you'll find a very familiar voice on that. That's Gary again. So we're very fortunate to be connected to these people, and the General and Trevor Loudon got this going.
And you can also find that information. I'll leave our Southeast Michigan business cards with our website on it, and you'll find links to the Betrayal Papers, Benghazi Brief, and I even think we've got posted right on our front page, the trail paper number 2, the video. So I'll leave some up there, and it's loaded with a lot of information that Dick just talked about.
Questions? Anybody have a question?
Okay, let's get the mic here.
Okay.
These numbers don't mention Central America, South America. I live in a small apartment house in Ann Arbor, and then it's acting as a transit point for a stream of immigrants from, looks like, I don't know, Salvador or someplace. So these numbers are not complete.
It's absolutely correct. This is just the legal program called refugee resettlement. There is a separate program for Haitian, Cuban replacement. There's another program for student visas. So you're correct. This is only refugee resettlement program. There's a number of other legal, by the way, one of the most surprising to me, 53,000 Saudis come to America every year under student visas. And the number 2 country is below 10,000. So for some reason, remember, Saudi Arabia takes 0 refugees. Saudi Arabia is within a 2-hour plane ride of most of these refugees. Saudi Arabia is a Sunni country. The Sunnis are being brought to America. Saudi Arabia takes nobody. On the other hand, we take 53,000 Saudi Arabian students every year. So to answer your question, this is a significant part of a much bigger number, correct? Another question?
Any more questions? Joe?
Yeah, like you mentioned, Donald Trump is the only one who's specifically addressed this issue. And with Ted Cruz's association with Trevor Loudon, I would have thought he'd be all over this by now. And the most recent comment I've heard him make is that he's against the anchor baby situation. And then we had some hopes for Carly Fiorina, whatever how you say her name.
Fiorina.
Yeah.
Some Italian name.
And she said after Trump's statement that there's no way we can just go and deport every illegal in the country. So, but I've heard people say that that the Republican Party is willing to ditch a conservative candidate over one issue, and
Is there a question in there?
I mean, who would otherwise be conservative, but because we don't agree with them on that issue, they're willing to ditch the candidate, and in which case we might possibly end up with Jeb Bush. But yeah, in an opposite, what I'm trying to say is, I might be willing to support a candidate over one issue in the name of.
This needs to be relative to
I think to comment on your point, a couple things. First of all, I think Ted Trump is, excuse me.
I'll vote for him.
What's the guy's name? Donald Trump. He's doing a service by talking about a lot of things. He also has gotten a piece of information out with Jeff Sessions. If you want to know who to really pay attention to on refugee resettlement and other immigration issues, Jeff Sessions is a very serious, quiet man, and he and Donald Trump are working on this. I think that's a positive thing. Again, it's in my opinion, it's also significant to know that Ted Cruz and Donald Trump have met repeatedly, and I think there are things that the Donald is doing for all of us. It's not just a Republican conversation. The people that are angry are looking to some way to vent the anger. As long as Trump stays in and the anger is attracted, whether people are independents or a Democratic worker who can't see his wages move, or who is losing household income because of the influx of people and his taxes are being spent. Well, that's all very positive. So I'm actually quite grateful that the Donald has got a big mouth and isn't afraid and is not politically correct. And I think Ted Cruz is right there. And I think at this point it's too early to parse individual issues. We should be applauding the noise that Ted Trump's making.
Yeah, Ted Trump.
Ted Trump. Ted Trump.
Any other questions?
These are 2 books that are available. Can I just say something?
Sure, sure.
Yeah, just the 2 books that are available. Ann Corcoran's Refugee Resettlement, The Hijra to America, $6 on Amazon. And Jim Simpson, The Red Green Axis, again, $6 on Amazon. Or if you have Kindle, I think it's $3. So you can get them through that. No, sir.
If you do one thing, I would recommend that you go to Refugee Resettlement Watch, Google Refugee Resettlement Watch, and if all you do tomorrow is read Ann Corcoran, that's enough to get started. That would be an activist move. Another question.
No, it's not really a question, it's just a statement. I get so fired up when I hear about all these people coming, taking all of our welfare money, getting all these freebies, when our veterans are sitting where they're sitting, waiting 2 and 3 years to get benefits, and I think it's just a travesty.
Yeah.
Well, that's a really good point. And you know what? Let's talk about that for 1 second. So we have people who are scratching their heads trying to figure out, well, how do we talk about this? Do we talk about Islam? Do we talk about the spending of money? And one of the comments that came back from a person who's been involved in this in Tennessee for 3 or 4 years, she said, be careful. When you talk about money, remember that the other side is going to talk about humanitarian. We spend money all the time. These people come and make companies, they come and they make businesses, they employ people. Be very careful when you start. On the other hand, what you said is correct. One way to approach it is to talk about the money that's diverted from its original purposes. The money that's spent to support these people in hospitals, food, housing, etc., is money that originally would have been set aside in state budgets and even federal budgets to support veterans.
And education.
Poor people. So for example, that's a much better way to talk about it, is the diversion of funds away. For example, I said earlier, Medicare. It's a major perversion of Medicare to be spending Medicare to put these people, to cover these people when Medicare was supposed to be for poor people, for moms, single moms, for seniors. Thank you.
Any other questions? Give these fellows a big hand. We're not going to hold you much longer, but Joe brought up Donald Trump fiasco. Now, I think this is good. I really do. I think the Republican Party deserves it. I think we're going to have a good outcome. But I want to warn you folks, this is something I have talked about a couple times in caucus. How many of you are aware of a situation by which, now some of the folks who have heard this will know the answer, a situation by which 26 votes will elect a president? Roger knows. Anybody else know that there is a constitutional process by which 26 people can elect a president? And I fear we may come there. Now that's called the 12th Amendment. 12th Amendment is if no candidate gets 270 electors, that's a majority, then it goes into the House of Representatives, of which each state gets 1 vote, and the majority of those will, between the top 3 electoral vote getters in the original race, somebody can get 26 votes and become the president. Here's the thing that I'm just going to sort of enjoy this thing with Donald Trump because it's becoming enjoyable. But here's the thing to be very concerned about. What I know is the established Republican Party will not allow a constitutional conservative to become president. If anything they can do about it. Jeb Bush is who they want. Now, I kind of eliminated Jeb, didn't I? But Jeb Bush is who they want. Now, what happens if the Republican Party doesn't treat Donald Trump just right? Because that's what Donald said would happen if he goes he would go third party if they didn't treat him just right. Now, he's got the kind of steam, he's got the kind of locomotion behind him right now to where it won't be like Ross Perot, because Ross Perot got a significant popular vote, I think it was 19%, but he didn't get any electors. Donald Trump will get some electors. What if he gets just enough electors to where no one gets 270? How many knows how many electors Obama got last election? 271. He got a pretty good popular vote, but only 271 electors. It was that close. Now, if we get a third-party candidate and no significant runner gets 270, it goes into the 12th Amendment. What about this scenario? I'm a scenario thinker. What about Donald Trump does get the nomination, and the Republican Party goes third party? And then, you know, the thing that I'm saying, the reason I'm saying it could happen is because in the House of Representatives, the makeup of the House of Representatives, Bill Winnick did this for me last Friday night. The makeup in the House of Representatives would mean that a Republican becomes president, because there's a majority. What it has, each delegation from each state gets one vote. So Bill went online and we got the delegations from each state. 33 to 17. The Republicans will carry it. And if Jeb Bush gets to be one of the top three, no matter how they accomplish it, Jeb Bush is going to be president, a 12th Amendment president. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm telling you that we are on grounds that we've never been on before, folks. And I'm beginning to really enjoy the Donald Trump thing. I'm not supporting Donald Trump. I'm supporting Carly, because I think Carly Fiorina can change the landscape. She can have, actually, what I think is, she can keep it from going into a 12th Amendment presidency. I think she can change the landscape. And like I said, Karl Rove would need a chalkboard instead of a whiteboard if Carly Fiorina become the Republican nominee, because she would change the landscape of each state. And I'm not going to criticize you for being a Ted Trump supporter. You know what? There's a Freudian slip there, but isn't there a little bit of truth to that? Because because Ted Cruz has very smartly allied himself with Donald Trump's philosophy. And I think there's a plan going on there, and more power to them. They're both non-political class. But beware, folks. The Republican Established Party does not want to allow a non-political class that cannot be purchased, lobbied. And by the way, the military-industrial complex is going to sway and have its way if it can. And that's why it's so important we continue to do these things. So thank you for coming out tonight. One last question I have. My brother has a question. We'll get to. If you have any questions, we'll take them. The 8 o'clock hour is new for us. This is the first time Tony's given us permission to go from 8 to 11. And when I asked George a question. He answered it for me over there a while ago. He says it's a little harder for me to get here because I have to come directly from work, but I like it better. So what I'm wanting is a consensus. Some of you folks don't come all the time, and some do. So I'm just wanting a show of hands. Think about it, because we'll go back to 9 o'clock to midnight if that's what everybody likes better. But I'm trying to be more convenient for getting a few more folks out. And give me your opinion. Those in favor of keeping the 8 o'clock hour, raise your hands. Okay, it's just about everybody. I don't even need to have you. And it's going to take some getting used to. So, Brother Ed, go ahead.
First of all, regarding Donald Trump, I'm not really up on the candidates, but is he a constitutional conservative, in your opinion? And has there been any candidacy dialogue along that line from him? Secondly, I just have a question. If extreme Islamist terrorists could have a convention and run a candidate for president, could they find a better one than Barack Hussein Obama?
That is a loaded question. Well, they third term, Bernie Sanders, yeah, Bernie Sanders. To answer your question about Donald Trump's candidacy, The word epiphany comes to me. Now, it would take the epiphany of epiphanies. I'm a drywall guy. Epiphany is a big word, but I do know what it means. Donald Trump, for years, was not a conservative. He claims that he is a Reagan-type conservative. Now, well, I knew Ronald Reagan. I like to use that that Vincent thing. I knew Ronald Reagan. I was serving under Ronald Reagan. You, Mr. Trump, are no Ronald Reagan. Yeah, and I say that because the epiphany that he says he had, I don't believe. Just 5 years previous, Donald Trump was supporting pro-choice. He was supporting gun limitations. He was supporting everything Democrat. He says he gives to both parties. He gave to Hillary because he wanted her to come to his wedding. No, I'm not buying that one, Don. He gave to her in the Democrat Party because he was affiliated in philosophy. Yeah. Now, if you believe he's had this epiphany, then go ahead. I don't believe he has. But I do like what he's doing. I love what he's doing, and I think it's going to be beneficial. But I'm going to. It's blocking the established Republican Party. Hopefully, it isn't Bill Clinton's tactic. You know, Bill Clinton called Donald Trump 2 weeks before he announced. And hopefully it's not a Ross Perot tactic, because that's what got Bill Clinton elected. Now, there's some who disagree with me that there wasn't enough electoral votes, but you know what? You could have went the other way had all the popular votes been for George Bush Sr. And the reason that that was necessary for the Democrats was we had a Democrat-controlled Senate who had to approve, not advising consent, because it was the same kind of treaty that this Pacific Trade Agreement is. It wasn't a treaty, it was an agreement. So the Democrat-controlled House and Senate had to approve it, and George Bush Sr. could not have gotten that done for NAFTA. And folks, my wife's here tonight, she knows how badly affected that my trade as a drywall man over the years has been negatively affected by NAFTA and the implosion of illegal immigration, because drywall isn't that hard to learn. I became very good at it. It provided a very good career for my family, but it came to an end. There's plenty of work out there right now, but I can't do it. I can do it.
Hey, I heard.
And I can still compete with the illegals. But NAFTA has killed this for a lot of Americans. This Pacific Trade Agreement that is coming our way, folks, is NAFTA on steroids. And I just hope, we're talking about Donald Trump, I just hope that Bill Clinton is not smart enough, and I know he's smart. He is very smart, probably the smartest politician in history. I hope that this isn't a tactic to bring along Donald Trump in order to get Hillary elected. And folks, listen, we know about the emails, we know how her, do not put that woman out of the realm of being nominated in the Democrat Party. Denise has the microphone. She wants to
Yeah, just a couple comments. As far as Donald Trump goes, the jury's still out with me on him. I give everybody the benefit of the doubt with what's been going on with Obama in office since he got in there. He's changed a lot of people's minds, and a lot of people are seeing what's really going on now. So as far as Trump goes, maybe he's finally starting to see the light. I don't know. On another completely different note, as far as the refugee resettlement goes, there is, and I don't know if you guys have been watching this going on Michigan Avenue, in between I-94 and Carpenter Road, there is a masjid there that has been hidden behind the trees.
What is it?
It's a masjid, which is a mosque going up. That's their word, was masjid. Anyway, they've cleared the land this last week, and I think they're going to be putting a building up there today. There was at least 30 cars outside. So it's on Michigan Avenue on the south side. As you're going from I-94 to Carpenter Road, it's right about in the middle, between Crane and the freeway. So just watch
over
that.
on Ellsworth Road, there's a proposed 82,000.
So far, that's been held back for a number of reasons, but they're talking about putting right at Gulfside and Ellsworth They're talking about, right by Bill Bigler's new house, by the way. They're talking about putting one in there too, and they're trying hard to get the, you know, the
Traffic.
proper, whatever, paperwork for that, so. Just, I mean, it's coming to a neighborhood near you, so pay attention.
Any other questions, folks?
You just mentioned NAFTA.
NAFTA?
If you want to see that and not to reflect NAFTA, go ahead on 94 look at all the Canadian stuff.
Look at all the Canadian trucks.
Yeah.
A friend of mine runs to LA in trucks. He told me that was a Canadian issue with trucks coming across the line because of NAFTA. But this friend of mine told me that the Arab truckers are being funded by the U.S. government. And the oversight of their safety, I forget, it's not OSHA, but the people who inspect their trucks, DOT, do not hold the Arab truck drivers to the same standards that they do the American truck drivers. And I asked him, I said, well, prove that to him. And he says, well, I was struck down on a tire that wasn't quite right, and I had to buy a new tire. This Arab truck driver, and I'm asking this fellow to give me proof, and I'll bring it to you when he does, because I know he's telling the truth. Every single tire on his truck was worse than that tire. And he was told by the inspector to back off. He was told to back off. I'm going to tell you something. I get proof, we won't back off. Because this is a trend, folks. We're going to let our families be put at risk because we're trying to relocate refugees. We're trying to get Arab truck drivers without safety standards in this country, across the country. No, we won't back off. But I want to thank you folks for coming out tonight. Tell everybody about our caucus. Planned Parenthood tomorrow, the rally. Please try to make time to get there yet.
Isn't there a Planned Parenthood just down the street here?
Yes, there is, but we want to protest at the ones where they actually do the baby killing. This one here just supports the other things. They do not actually do abortions there, although they did used to. I want to tell you a story about that place right there when they used to do abortions there. A friend of mine's a plumber. My brother knows him. He was called because they had a problem with that place, right here on Ecorse River. A little bit distasteful, but you know, you're going to hear this. The pipes were plugged. He had to do roto-rooters, unplugged pipes, where discarded babies were thrown away. If America can't answer this call, we are not worthy of answering any call. We have, I mean, just because now we're getting a lot of publicity on the selling of baby parts, but I want to remind everybody who's angry about that those babies, and Christine made a point, most of those babies died before their parts was collected and shelved, but not all of them. Some of them were still alive. And I read the story Christine talked about, where that was a full-term baby on the table, still fighting for its life, and scissors were taken to separate the skin and the scalp from the brain so the brain could be taken intact. What have we become, folks? What have we become as a country? We can't sit in silence and authorize this kind of stuff. We can't sit in silence and authorize the sending of our young men and women over to a place where we will not fight to win. We cannot sit in silence and authorize this kind of thing in our homeland. So thanks for coming out tonight. Appreciate it. Tell people about our caucus. I'll see you next week. Good night.